Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From the Fourth Line. My name's Emma, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Marcie.
Hello.
So we are starting off today's episode with a little bit more of a serious story. So, of course, listeners' discretion advised for topics pertaining to sexual assault and rape. If you find those topics sensitive for you to listen to, we will have a timestamp in the show notes that you can skip to in order to skip this portion of the episode and go right into us breaking down the Leafs and the Jets game that was last night. But obviously, I think we're going to start off with probably the biggest news story of yesterday, and also as well just the biggest news story probably of the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that is, there was a Globe and Mail article that was published yesterday stating that 5 members of the 2018 World Junior Hockey Team for Team Canada have been told to surrender to London police to face charges of sexual assault. So this was the pending charges, of course, are connected to the alleged group sexual assault of a woman in a hotel room that occurred in June of 2018 following a gala celebrating Team Canada's win at the World Juniors that year. So this obviously has been a long time coming. I know there's a whole story behind this. So for those who aren't familiar with how Canadian law works, when it comes to charges pertaining to sexual assault, it is not up to the individual, to the victim of this crime to press charges. It becomes then a matter of the Crown. So it's the Crown prosecution who is pressing charges against these 5 players. I want to make sure we get this right, because this is such an important topic to talk about when it comes to not only just, hockey culture and hockey as a sport, but also just in terms of like humanity and social justice. Mm-hmm. So we also have to be really careful about the language, because we are, still a small podcast. But I am also still afraid of like the force of criminal justice lawyers.
Yeah. We have students. Please don't sue us.
Please don't sue us. Now, none of the players were named in this London police. Like, none of the players have been named by this, but that's because they actually just can't be named. I did my own research on this, and then I also asked my criminology major roommate, because she takes classes on this, and all of my knowledge on the Canadian criminal justice system comes from True Crime Podcast. But these suspects can't be named publicly until the charges are presented to a court of law, which is how they become public record, is within court documents, and then it's up to either the police to release them or members of the media to go into these public records and release them themselves. So, there is 5 players who were on the 2018 World Junior Team for Team Canada who within the past 2 days have stepped away from 2 days prior and just after this article came out, stepped away from team duties, citing personal reasons. And so we can't speculate and we can't point fingers, but we can be like, assumptions can be made. Mm-hmm. And of course, those players are, because, it's not a secret. Those players are Michael McLeod and Cal Foote from the New Jersey Devils, Carter Hart from the Philadelphia Flyers, Dylan Dubé from the Calgary Flames, and then Alex Formenton, who is currently playing in the Swiss League, but his was a draft pick by the Ottawa Senators, played for the Ottawa Senators for a couple of seasons, and then 2 seasons ago in the offseason, the Ottawa Senators declined to pick up his qualifying offer as an RFA and allowed him to go play in Switzerland. So just of note, because of how the players left their team, is now this is from Frank Saravalli via Daily Faceoff, is that players who step away from their team from team duties, citing personal reasons, will still get paid. Their salary will still count towards the cap, and they do not count against the roster limit for the team. So they do not go towards the 23-man roster. They will be listed as non-rostered players. If I see anyone who complains about how these players missing from their team and missing games will impact their favorite team's season, I'm gonna mute you or block you on Twitter, because that's not what's important here. What's important here is that, you know, this is something that has been shoved under the rug by various organizations in power, whether it be London Police, whether it be Hockey Canada, whether it be the NHL, whether it be the players themselves. You know, there's so much that has gone on that this doesn't get told, and then the fact that now this is something that is happening is actually really important. And it also is good to note out, like, the bravery of the victim in choosing to go with this. She is going to remain anonymous throughout the process, which is something that is a right that's given to her as a victim of a crime, that she can maintain anonymity. She can remain anonymous. I don't want to stumble over my words too much, but she wants, and she can throughout court proceedings, but she has also agreed to participate in court proceedings as required throughout the case, which means she'll be open to testify in a court of law, which is huge amount of bravery, because it does mean that she'll be open to face cross-examination by probably some very, very expensive criminal justice lawyers. Also as well, London Police will have a press conference regarding this on February 5th, which is notably the Monday after the All-Star break. And yeah, it honestly incites and issues that exist within hockey culture, that have existed within hockey culture for a very long time. And also to note as well, yes, 5 are being charged with a crime here, but 8 players allegedly took part in the actual assault, and 10 allegedly were inside of that hotel room. So
I've seen so many people on Twitter being like, oh, well, I'm glad it wasn't like this player. And I'm like, it just because they weren't in the room, it very much, like, they will have known.
Oh yeah, this is still like 2018. It's known public record that there was a group chat involved in this situation, and that players were in this group chat talking about what happened. So anyone on that team, and probably people outside of that team who were still friends with these players, knew what happened and chose not to say anything.
Which is horrific. And I think the response on Twitter was like, half of it was like good, and people like actually talking about it and being like, I'm glad that like we have been made aware of the players that have taken time away from their teams. And then the other half was awful, and it made me feel sick.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there were so many people like quote tweeting replies to the tweets that were like victim blaming. And I think, whilst obviously you don't want to see the victim blaming tweets, because it's not a situation where you should victim blame, I think people need to remember, like, not interacting with them is the best course of action.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
because you're putting some really shit stuff on everyone's timelines.
Oh, absolutely. Like, even if you think you're, like, by calling someone out on Twitter, you're doing a good service towards just making the internet a better place, which is like trying to drain the ocean. You are making it worse because you're putting that vile content out there for more people to see. Because before, when maybe it was just that person's following seeing it, it's now your following is also seeing it. And so the best course of action is when you see vile stuff like that on the internet, especially in something like this, where it is just a huge echo chamber of people saying vile, disgusting stuff online, is if you see something like that, block the person, mute them, report them. Like, that's what those things that's what that is for on the internet, is that's those tools are for, that sort of thing. And you're also, as well as your own protection. And don't give the person attention, because that's what they want. At the end of the day, that's what they're asking for. And I think anyone who makes a joke about this it's disgusting. This is a disgusting topic to make a joke out of. It's not something to be made light of. It's a really serious thing, because, I saw so many people, so many comment sections where it's people saying, oh, she's, talking about the victim, who is only being referred to in legal documents as EM. But saying that she's only after the money, she's only doing it for the money, which is so violently disgusting and also wrong, because she filed when she went the next day to London police and was like, this is what happened to me. London police did an inadequate investigation and was like, we can't do anything about this, probably because it was, hockey players who, I actually don't know at the time how many of them have been drafted by their NHL teams or not, but like, we're probably on track to go to the NHL. Were, had just come off of a World Juniors win, which means a whole heck of a lot in this country. And we're like, we'll just, there's not enough evidence. We can't do anything. When really there is enough evidence and they could have done something. So then she went and she filed a civic lawsuit, against Hockey Canada and the CHL and 8 unnamed players, seeking, 3.5 million in damages. And then after that lawsuit went through, then afterwards, because it was Hockey Canada quietly settled the lawsuit out of court, which is, how this sort of, kind of really got first into the public eye. It was discovered that Hockey Canada had been using registration funds from players to pay for lawsuits regarding sexual assault. Plenty of them. This isn't the only one. We're going to talk about one in a little bit about from 2003. And then London police, were like, we'll reopen this case. And now, because it's charges such, criminal charges in terms of sexual assault, in Canadian law, it is Crown charges. It is not the victim who is placing these charges. Like I said earlier, it is the Crown. It is, I'm trying to think of it's a prosecutor. I'm trying to think of a way to put this in context for our American listeners, because if I say Crown, it makes sense to all of our Canadian and British listeners, but I do also know that we have a lot of American listeners as well. So it's hard to quite really translate how the differences in Canadian court and American, for those who aren't familiar with it, when you don't know what the Crown means. But it's essentially, it's no longer an individual placing charges. It's like the police are placing charges against these 5 players. So this is something where it was like we were supposed to find out the results of a report over the summer, and then we didn't. And then there was sort of more news around end of November, which is right around the time when we started the show, and we talked about it in our first ever episode. And so here, hopefully, we'll see how in the next 2 weeks, sort of where this case develops and things like that. The suspects have a unnamed amount of time to report themselves and essentially turn themselves into police so that they can face charges. So, we'll see. It's definitely something that we'll, keep an eye on over here for sure. And also as well, then there was almost minutes after as well, news out about this a team potentially coming to Utah, and it's a weird way of like it being damage control. Like, yes, a lot of people are saying, well, like, maybe it wasn't the NHL trying to spin the news cycle or whatever, because it wasn't coming from the NHL, it was coming from the investors, it was coming from insiders. I'm like, but you have to know that like hockey insiders aren't necessarily reporters. They are people who are fed information from the police. And if there's anything that this story tells, and the way that we've found out news about this story and everything, is that if this tells you anything, is like the NHL is, you forget how good the NHL is at not having anything get out, like not having leaks unless they want that information to get out. Until a story like this happens where you can tell it was very, very obvious they didn't want anyone to know. Like Hockey Canada didn't want anyone to know. And then you have Rick Westhead going in and doing some hard, heavy investigative journalism, which is what he's best at. And, finding the story and doing a lot of work on it, and it comes out and it's very obvious that it was not supposed to ever come out. And so the NHL, like the media underworld of hockey in the NHL is a lot uglier than people assume, I think, for the most part. So I think I don't know why the NHL thinks that, certainly especially like hit their like online fan base. I don't know what this would be like for the people who don't exist on Twitter, or like are finding this out from TV or radio or newspaper. Like they're like my mom. I don't know how my mom would see this situation about how it's trying to get spun to them. But like they have to realize that like their NHL has to realize that their fans on the internet who are getting these minute by minute updates and are getting all the news stories as soon as they come out towards them, like they're a lot more media literate than they think. NHL fans on Twitter are not dumb. No. They're not stupid. They know when a PR story is being sold to them, and they're able to see that. And so like we're not even going to talk about Utah in this episode, because really, like, no offense to people who live in Utah, I really don't give a fuck. There's my one F-bomb. Clock it. But like I don't care. Whatever. We're not going to talk about Utah. We're going to talk about this because this is a story that matters for sure. And, then of course also as well, like this is and I think now you're 24 hours after 24 or 36 hours after this all come out, you now are starting to see the impacts of people like re-examining hockey culture with all this being brought back up. And it happens every time. There's another update in the story is like people are like looking at hockey culture and are like, pushing looking closer at it as well. I do also want to say like this was done the Globe and Mail reporters, because I do want to shout out those reporters, because they are the ones who put in so much heavy work. So that was Robin Doolittle, who originally reported on this story. So I just want to, say a shout out to her, because this is like the hard, heavy investigative journalism that I know I saw a lot of people online complaining that the fact that the original Globe and Mail article was locked behind a paywall. And I do just want to say, like, first of all, that's the business structure of the Globe and Mail. Also, news we're so spoiled by how Twitter operates and social media operates, where you can, get news for free online, where you have to realize that there's still like news houses that exist in a traditional sense in like traditional media, such as the Globe and Mail, such as the Toronto Star, where they have to like lock their articles behind a paywall, because that's how they make their money in order to keep being able to do stories like this and tell and report on stories like this and do the investigative journalism and heavy hitting journalism that's required to do this. So also as well, very shortly after that Globe and Mail article came out, there was, screenshots of it all over Twitter. I have, a copy of it saved to a Google Drive if anyone wants to read it who hasn't yet. DM me, DM the show. I'll send you the link. And also as well, like, it was available, like, essentially the article was then summarized not even 20 minutes later on Sportsnet for free, where you could read essentially the same information. So yeah, because I saw so many people getting mad that it was locked behind a paywall. It's not just that one story, it's any story put out by the Globe and Mail is locked behind a paywall. So unfortunately.
I also want to add that Michael McLeod and Cal Foote have been removed from the Devils roster on the NHL app, and on the Fanatics website they have also been removed from any shirt options available to buy. So that's just another little update on that.
Yeah, and also as well, before people, actually, you know what? They were listed, if they're non-rostered, not to say this isn't an option, but Tyler Bertuzzi, who's also been placed on the Leafs non-rostered, unrelated, his wife is having a baby, is also not listed on the NHL's roster for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that could be just because of how they were moved to non-rostered. Because they don't go against the team's 23-man roster, that could be a thing. But I just, that's...
Yeah, I think if it was just like the app, then it'd have just been like, it's because they're not. But like the Fanatics thing as well is just like,
But yeah, so the reason why they're off the app makes sense because of how they were removed from. Sorry, I'm trying to just fact check something. Not that I don't trust you.
No, I saw a picture of it. But...
Tyler Bertuzzi is also off of the Leafs roster on Fanatics for jerseys.
Interesting.
But there's like a couple, but also I take that with a grain of salt because they also have Noah Chadwick on here.
Yeah, the options you have for your jerseys are interesting.
I tried to buy a Wool jersey after the playoffs this year, and he wasn't listed as a rostered player, which was a little bit odd. But yeah. So, anyways, I think also as well, like, I think any player on this team is culpable. I don't think any player is necessarily not culpable, even if, they can prove that they were a million miles away from London. Because of the day and age that we're in now, like, we know a group chat existed, and we know that was something that was discussed in this group chat between players on this team. The fact that there was, maybe guys who weren't, in the room or never even went up into the hotel room or whatever, but saw, whatever was shared in this group chat and didn't go to any member of authority, just further proves that there's this, these deep-seated issues within hockey culture that are, so systematic and, so deeply rooted into hockey as a sport that it's disgusting as a fan.
Yeah.
Also as well, just some more facts, because there's, Rick Westhead. So this is from Rick Westhead. He tweeted out yesterday. This is also, I've connected with multiple former Crown attorneys and defense lawyers who have expertise prosecuting and defending sexual assault cases. Based on today's news, they all agree that it's clear the alleged victim in the 2018 World Juniors case is committed to cooperating with police, testifying in open court, and facing cross-examination with multiple highly skilled defense lawyers. So that's what I said earlier, but that's where it comes from. It comes from a Rick Westhead tweet is based on that information. Also as well, via Rick Westhead on Twitter, who's fantastic investigative journalism.
Yeah.
Journalist. He is the one who originally broke this story, and he's also the one who's done a lot of work on it and other cases similar to it. He says in an update, the Halifax Regional Police continue to investigate a historical sexual assault that is alleged to have occurred in the city during the 2002 to 2003 World Juniors tournament. Involves multiple members of Canada's team, a police spokesman told TSN. As with any investigation, investigators are gathering evidence, following up on leads, speaking with people who may have information in relation to the investigation, and exploring numerous avenues to advance this investigation. Constable John McLeod wrote to TSN in an email this morning. We thank everyone who has come forward to assist in the investigation thus far and continue to encourage anyone with information to contact police. McLeod wrote, police want victims to know that there's no statute of limitations, and we take a victim-centered approach to sexualized violence so that we can provide assistance to victims at whatever stage of healing they may be in. A person familiar with the matter previously told TSN that Halifax Police have committed significant resources to the investigation and have continued trying to contact witnesses who may have information to share about allegations. So, Hockey Canada is very much an organization that has so many dark marks on their record. And the thing is that Hockey Canada is associated with Sport Canada, which is like a government organization. So this has ties to the Canadian government overall as well. So, yeah. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think I kind of, one little thing is like a lot of people online have been saying like, they're glad she's gonna get justice. It's not really justice. It's people being held accountable for what they've done.
Yeah.
And like, yes, if it's successful, then obviously it's a positive outcome. But it's like she's also gonna have to relive it and go through an absolutely horrific experience in court.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just to try. So, it's if success, but at what cost?
Yeah, because if this is tried in court, and because the 5 who get charged don't agree to a plea deal, if this goes to court, she's gonna then have to recount what happened to her, which is obviously very traumatizing. Not only, answering to the question in cross-examination, but also having to face the people who sexually assaulted her. Allegedly, because I don't want to get sued. But yeah, that's all we have to say about the matter. Obviously, we will, we'll keep you guys updated, and obviously this will not be the last time we talk about this. For sure, and definitely, hopefully the appropriate course of action takes place, and that those responsible get punishment for their actions.
Yeah.
Because it's been almost 6 years, 5.5 years, and a lot of players on that team have gone on to have very successful NHL careers in which they make a lot of money and get to walk around like nothing's happened, whereas the victim, obviously her entire life was changed because of other people's actions. So yeah, with that, if you have nothing else to add, we can talk about Leafs and Jets.
Joy.
Yeah. So
I will add, this is like, for anyone who didn't want to listen to the first bit, if you can hear a really high-pitched whirring in the background throughout this entire recording, it's because I think my laptop's about to explode.
Yeah, Marcy's laptop is threatening to explode, just like the LA Kings season right now. I don't know if you've been following that. I woke up and I was like scrolling through. I was like, whoa. Beat reporters were like starting beef with like LA Kings PR. I was like, whoa.
Oh. But yes,
Doughty, I think, is ready to like fight his entire locker room. Yeah. Did you see that one quote? Okay. I didn't have the LA Kings originally on our outline, but like we might just talk about them because it's really fascinating story coming out of that organization as well. But Leafs and Jets, first of 2 this week. We have another game on Saturday. Samsonov gets the start at home, and
what a game!
What a game for Samsonov. His post-game quotes, oh my god.
No, because there were tears in my eyes.
No, because like it's incredible. Oh, there's another Rick Westhead tweet. Okay. I did only just see what you sent now. Okay. Okay. Anyways. Doesn't matter. So Leafs were without Bertuzzi as his wife is expecting a baby. He's been moved to the non-rostered spot so that they Leafs could take like his cap hit was removed from the cap, and so then the Leafs could call up not call up, but they could move Reeves off of IR, except then he didn't play. Look, this whole Ryan Reeves situation is hurting my brain, honestly, but we're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the game. Samsonov, my 3 stars of the game. Samsonov, Benoit, Robertson.
Yep.
Any other player on that ice? Jail time.
Samsonov, Benoit, and Robertson were the only players on the ice. I think everyone else just kind of spent 60 minutes sat in the locker room.
Austin Matthews' stick was on the ice.
Yeah, it was for a brief moment.
His brain was not.
No.
But yeah, Leafs power play. What are we?
What are we doing?
Why are we turning into the Pittsburgh Penguins? Why is our power play 1 goal in the last 20 attempts? That's from a Luke Fox tweet. It was like, Leafs power play is 5-0. 1 goal in the past 20 attempts. Thanks for reminding me that we can't score on the power play. And it's not even like, oh, the Winnipeg Jets penalty kill is really good. No. This is a Winnipeg Jets, which it was not Hellebuck in net. It was Laurent Brossoit. They were without Mark Scheifele, who I have personal beef with still. For some reason, he has the world's biggest hate boner for the Leafs, which is so funny because he's from Kitchener. I'm like, I can guarantee you he grew up as a Leafs fan.
Oh, yeah.
Because he grew up in Kitchener. So I don't know what's his problem. He was out of the game, though, because he's still day-to-day with an injury. And then for most of the game, Morrissey was out with a lower body injury, and like he was hurt in the first period and then never returned. But like the Leafs just had some bad turnovers.
It was painful. Like my friend was round to watch the game, and we were like, "Oh, we're not really gonna drink tonight." We did more than we would like to admit. And I think at one point I suggested, should we just have a shot every single time the Leafs do something that makes us sad? But then I think we very quickly realized that would land us in hospital.
That you would have to get your stomach pumped if you did that, because the Leafs. I was tearing out my hair. Wednesday night is me and Simon's date night, so we went out for dinner and then. I sometimes
make an appearance in.
Yeah, Marcy crashes date night, but we went out for dinner at this great pizza restaurant in Ottawa. That's really. I'd like Tex-Mex pizza that was actually really good. I was like combining. I was like three cuisine fusion over here with like Italian, like American, like Texas, like barbecue and like Mexican food. It was really good. But And then we came back and we watched the game at my apartment with my roommate, and I was ready to tear my hair out. I was yelling at my TV. I was like a crazy person. But there was that really bad one on the power play that led to a 2-0 that Samsonov was that's a caliber save right there.
I did not think he was going to save it.
Oh, no. Like, I saw that. I was like, all right, well, you know what? It's good while it lasted. And then he makes a caliber save. It was a fantastic save. And then Sheldon Keefe absolutely loses it on that power play.
No, because we were like sat there. We were like, oh my god. We were like, that was an incredible save. Like, go.
And then he cuts to the bench.
And we were like, oh, he's fuming.
He turned like
the man invented a whole new shade of red.
No, because he was like, oh, he was mad. He was mad. He was turning the same color as Mitch's suit last night.
He was.
Like, he was yelling, and then he benched the top power play unit, their next power play, because they were the ones responsible. Like, there was some confusion. It was a weird mix of who was on. It was like a mix of power play, the top and the second power play unit, but it was mostly those guys on the top power play unit who were responsible. And then Morgan Riley had a couple of bad ones. TJ Brody had a couple of bad ones. Even Liljegren had a couple of bad ones. Yeah. Just bad turnovers. I was like, what are we doing? But yeah, so Samsonov, because what you want from your goalie is you want your goalie to give you a chance to win, right? Samsonov was not only the Leafs had a chance to win, they were why they won.
Oh yeah.
Because
he literally I hope his back's okay from carrying the entire team for 60 minutes, because 65 minutes.
Yeah. Well, he became the first back-to-back winner of the Leafs win belt.
Oh.
Because he tried to give it to Austin, and then Austin was like, no, I'm giving it right back to you. Because oh yeah. Also as well to note, Sheldon Keefe did say before the game that even if Bertuzzi was able to play last night, that Robertson would have gotten put into the lineup because of just how good he's been playing recently. But Robertson plays a season-high 17 minutes of ice time and gets a chance during OT and makes the most of his chance on OT by having an assist on Austin Matthews' OT winner.
Look at him go!
So proud of him, but, like, fantastic.
Yeah, it's like... Sheldon, this is what happens when you play Nick Robertson. He does this.
He does this. He has great games, and keep rewarding them. And
from what I've seen this season, which is every single Leafs game, because I just don't sleep. Nick Robertson has been one of the most consistent players when he's been on the ice.
Oh yeah. Well, there was that graphic that they showed before the game where it was listing off a bunch of all the Leafs left wingers, and we're saying oh, this is their time on ice. This is how many goals they scored. And Nick Robertson with less than 300 minutes of ice time, which is the less of any of the Leafs left regular wingers. I don't know if it was specifically left wingers or whatever it was, but by a lot.
Nice. Domi, Robertson.
Yeah, so a mix of all the Leafs left wingers, right?
Yeah.
You get a little bit flexible there with Domi and Bertuzzi. You're like, left winger. But yeah, they both it was he has Nick Robertson has 7 goals or something ridiculous on the season, less than 300 minutes of ice time.
7 goals in 288 minutes.
Have yourself a night, Nikki Bobby. Have yourself
a night. When I do well.
Oh yeah, and he's probably been the one who has been getting the short end of the stick with Sheldon Keefe's little game of musical chairs when it comes to moving guys around. the lineup and things like that. And I think for him to make the most out of the opportunities that he's given him has really shown that he's worth keeping around for sure, because he's been one of those guys that have like been like a potential trade chip for the Leafs, especially with Trilliving saying that he's like very much against trading picks or prospects, which I guess technically you could still count Nick Robertson as a prospect because he hasn't had that many NHL games under his belt. But, you know, I think when it comes to prospects, we're more talking about the Fraser.
Oh my God, I don't know what I'd do if we traded him.
Easton Cohen. Those are terms of what we're talking about when it comes to prospects. But also as well, I think that was all we had to say on the game specifically. Leafs again, then their last game before the All-Star break, take on the Jets again in Winnipeg on Saturday for Hockey Night in Canada. Yay. It'll be an interesting game for sure. Hellebuyck is due to get the start, and we'll see who starts for the Leafs, if it'll be Samsonov or if it'll be Jones. Speaking of who will be getting the start, I think it's time we talk about the Leafs goaltending situation in terms of the fact of we've been waiting to say this for like all day. Here we go. So this is via Luke Fox, but from Sheldon Keefe. Joseph Woll, who attended the Leafs' optional morning practice on Wednesday, will remain rehabbing in Toronto during the All-Star break. Keefe says that he hopes he can practice with the team after that, but game action will not be imminent. Well, I hope it's imminent enough to get him in for February 19th.
Oh, God.
They all have circled on our calendar. That is fast approaching. It's less than a month away. We're the 25th of January right now.
I'm genuinely scared.
It is really good. I think actually that optional skate on Wednesday was the first time that Joseph Woll had practiced with the team in any capacity. Now, it's not a full team practice, but it is still the first time he was not practicing alone on a separate sheet of ice, which has been par for the course for him before this. So steps in the right direction. Also, as well, could we say that Samsonov is potentially back? You know, I know we've had a small sample size. We've only had, 3 games?
Yeah, but I think from the 3 games we've seen, he definitely looks back.
He looks back. So then you come into the tough decision. Well, not really, but can Martin Jones clear waivers again? Like he had to do at the beginning of the summer. Now, beginning of the season. Now, at the beginning of the season, we had the added bonus of his weird bonus that was going to kick in day after, and so then it was teams weren't more like even though there were teams that needed goaltending help, they were not as inclined to claim him because of the whole it's capology that I do not have a degree in. I just know that if you gotta all your contracts gotta be under a certain amount. It's a lot, but obviously when Joseph Woll comes back, he is going to come back into as the Leafs regular starter.
Yeah.
Not regular starter, but at least as the Leafs regular goaltender. I feel like that's not even a question of the matter, because that's where he was when he got hurt. And no offense to Martin Jones, but has he necessarily earned where he is? He hasn't done a lights out, standout job to then, deserve to be.
He's made the most out of a bad situation. Yeah. I think. But he's not, because historically, because unfortunately Joseph Woll has had
injuries.
A rough few years when it comes to injuries. But historically, every single time he has come back from an injury, he's come back better than before. So fingers crossed that happens again.
Yeah, and I think if your goalie tandem is top form Ilya Samsonov and returning from injury improved Joseph Woll, I think you're pretty good when it comes to goaltending department. The only thing that's to worry about is if Martin Jones can clear waivers, and because if he doesn't, then your third string goalie then suddenly becomes Dennis Hildeby, who's had a rough run of it recently with the Marlies ever since going back.
Yeah.
After being called up from the Leafs.
Sheldon Keefe cursed him.
Yeah, and also as well, like your cap space gets tricky, especially with Ryan Reeves being called up and wanting to play, but his knee. Man, that's another thing we have to talk about as well.
In charge of the situation. I don't know what I'd do.
No. But yeah, so obviously, Sheldon Keefe is making it sound like Joseph Woll coming back from injury is a long way off, but we don't know. Who knows? It could be something where it's like it's the fingers crossed. It's sooner than what we hope, right?
I just need him back for the 19th. I don't think he understands how much of my happiness and like genuine mental stability is riding on him playing that game.
Yeah.
Which is my own fault for doing that to myself. But like, please.
Yeah, for those who don't know, because for some reason you haven't been listening to about every other single episode of the podcast that where we talk about Joseph Woll since he's been injured. February 19th is a game that the Leafs play against St. Louis in St. Louis, which if you don't know, that's where Joseph Woll is from. He's from St. Louis. And so we just really would like him to have the opportunity to play against his hometown team in his hometown. And it's also something that he said himself he's looking forward to.
Yeah, and
it's a game team he can't wait to play against.
Sheldon Keefe, if he's back for that game, Sheldon Keefe, if you don't start him for that game, I will be in your walls. That's not an official threat, but just bear it in mind, Sheldon.
Yeah, it's not a part of a back-to-back, but the Leafs do play the Ducks 2 days prior. In Toronto, though. It's a home game. I'm looking at their schedule right now. I have it on on my Penguins and Paws calendar.
I love that calendar.
It's great. I can't wait to flip it over to February, where I get to stare at Noel Acciari for a month.
Aww.
Because he's Mr. February.
I miss him.
But yeah, another issue with the Leafs as well that I think is like Ryan Reeves is off of IR. Now what do you do? Because obviously you work under the cap currently as is because Tyler Bertuzzi is non-rostered because his wife is expecting. But that's only a temporary fix because his wife is not always going to be expecting a baby. His wife is going to give birth eventually. And then what do you do? Right?
Yeah.
So you have to send down someone because you obviously can't make it work. And like now here we are. Reeves, like the players who potentially could be on the bubble are Reeves, Lagesson, McMahon, and Gregor. All those 4 players require waivers in order to get sent down to the Marlies. Nyes, Holmberg, and Robertson don't require waivers. So, you could be Brad and you could be like, well, the historic record of Leafs players getting claimed off waivers does not apply to me. And I'm going to take a chance. And I'm going to send, one of these guys, put them on waivers in the hopes that they'll clear and we can send them down. Now you can hope that, but then also, or you could end up like Calgary today, who just lost 2 players because both of them were claimed off of waivers. Or you could be like, well, I can you won't send down Matthew Nyes because he's currently playing on the top line with Austin and Mitch. You could then be like, well, I'll send down either Holmberg and or Robertson because they don't require waivers to get sent down to the Marlies, except Holmberg and Robertson are playing pretty good hockey right now.
Yeah. So if you send down Holmberg or Robertson, I will be sad. Don't do that.
Have we ever considered Marcie's happiness in this all at the end of the day?
Yeah, like, have you considered, like, I'm sorry, if you want to send him down, just look at my little Holmberg signed puck, look that little puck in the eyes and tell it you want to send him down. Do it. Because I don't have that.
Also, as well, like, just, it's, anyway, I thought the Reeves signing when it happened, you know, I think it was one of the first ones the Leafs did. It literally was the first one the Leafs did.
Yeah.
When free agency opened, was sign Ryan Reeves to 1 point whatever million. I remember because his, you know, as I'm trying to not have a mental breakdown over Alexander, like Michael Bunting, gone. Yeah. Alexander Kerfoot, gone. Justin Hall, gone. I'm also then being shown on TSN, like, Ryan Reeves' like first interview as a Leaf, and I'm thinking, okay, we know this is as a locker room guy, right? Ryan Reeves as a locker room guy.
Justin Hall was a locker room
guy. Literally, when you have 3 guys who were noted locker room guys all signing somewhere else, and I also think about that one little Bunting quote where it was like, I would have loved to come back to Toronto. I didn't because they never called me. So I signed somewhere else.
You're bringing up a lot of emotions to me right now, Emma. You're making me sad.
Oh, I'm making myself sad, too. Thinking about it.
Misery!
So, literally, it was the first time I was meeting Simon's parents that day, too. And I was like, yeah.
Oh my god, that was that long ago?
Yeah.
Oh god, time flies.
Oh, I know, eh? But it's like, you know, Ryan Reeves is a very expensive cheerleader. If you want someone to bring the good, if you want someone to be the commissioner for your fantasy football team, not fantasy football team, fantasy football league, and you need someone who brings the good vibes in the locker room, you can hire me for less.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we would be very good at that.
And we are much cheaper than Ryan Reeves.
Yeah, I will literally do it for just like Leafs tickets.
Also, as well, like, well, no, okay, no, you gotta bank in that they're gonna pay your like Toronto rent prices.
Well, yeah, that's a given. I mean, have they seen the state of student finances?
No, but like, think about it this way: if we go, we don't necessarily play hockey.
No, we do. We sit there and build Lego.
Oh yeah, exactly. Joseph Woll needs someone to keep him occupied.
Oh my god, no, best idea in the world. We're there for locker room vibes, fantasy football team management, league management, and then we just spend the entire season building life-size replicas of every single person on the team. Because what brings up the vibes more than going back into the locker room after a tough game and being like, holy shit, they've built a life-size me out of Lego. Can you imagine how happy that'd make everyone? Can you imagine how happy would that make you before?
Also, we're not hockey players. You know, we're not NHL players. We're furthest thing from it. The money you would have to pay us would not go against your cap. You could file it away under some little line on your spreadsheets when it comes to like doing your finances and your budget, and will be a little budget line that's like forget Evgeny Malkin's $19 Erewhon smoothies. We will be the fun and vibes budget line, and it's like our salaries and our blackout budget.
Yeah, if you like pay our rent, give us a Lego budget, and like just pay off my student loans, and I'll do it for that and a packet of crisps, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, literally, we'll just travel to exactly. And also, surprisingly enough, as much as I complain about my knees, I probably have better knees than 37-year-old Ryan Reeves.
Mm. And as well, I can be there as a backup goalie option.
We need a knee bug? Forget the Zamboni driver. Throw in the university student. Throw in the British university student.
Yeah, throw in the British university student field hockey goalie. I bring good goalie vibes. You saw my B-reel today. That was the best goalie vibes.
Oh, it was such high goalie vibes.
My feet up on the floor.
But yeah, definitely, like, it is something where it's like, because I don't know about you, but I, like, you know, you have to at least trust that the Leafs, you know, did their due diligence when signing Reeves in terms of medical evaluation when it comes to his loose knees. But, like, I don't know how much I trust 37-year-old Ryan Reeves, who by the way, I am paying $1.135 million for the next 2 years after this one. That's right. Next 2 years after this one. This feels a lot like the Kyle Clifford contract. Remember that? Oh, I do. He's still with the Marlies. Heck, you probably could have called him up cheaper.
Leafs.
I don't know how confident I would feel about him going out and, like, playing any valuable time to bring anything valuable to this team. And I know people are like, but the advanced stats. Do I look like I give a crap about your advanced stats? I'm looking at my eyes. I'm trusting my eye test of, like, hey, this team doesn't look really good when they've got slow Ryan Reeves with his loose knees at 37 on the forward check or on the back check, on any of the checks.
Because, like, in the nicest way possible, the last thing we need is another older, slow player. No offense to
especially when there's all this talk about John Tavares potentially getting old. Last thing we need.
It's like we need more Noah Gregors.
We need more Noah Gregors who can actually finish plays, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, you know, if I'm Brad, not gonna lie, if I'm Brad, I put Reeves on waivers and watch. Because I don't think there's a lot of teams that would want to pay, at this point of the season, Ryan Reeves in the state that he's in at 37 for 2 more years, mind you. It's not like it's like, we're going to pick him up and we only have to pay him that for half a season because that's how much time is left. No. You have to then keep him on your books for the next 2 years. You're not trading Ryan Reeves because you actually can't trade him. He is not a trade asset. He is something where it is hey, please take this contract off our books, which is what you did to Sam Lafferty, who, by the way, has how many goals right now in the NHL with the Canucks? Last time I checked, it was 10, but I'm willing to bet it is more now.
I miss him so bad. Bring back Sam Lafferty, my friend who was around last night, so I keep talking about her, but this is funny. She didn't know he actually ever had hair. So I showed her, I showed her the Sam Lafferty headshot, and she had to sit down, take a minute, and then threaten to leave my house. So safe to say she's now traumatized.
By the way, Sam Lafferty, who 10 goals, 20 points. You know what his career high in a single season is? 21. 27. So
why do we do this to ourselves?
I'm sure you're regretting that one, because who was actually a good solid, who was a good solid shutdown forward for you, who could play some shutdown minutes but could still score goals and was actually pretty quick when it came to it and could bring the snot to the team. Sam Lafferty, who you traded away, Brad, because you couldn't afford his contract because you decided to sign Ryan Reeves for over $1 million. Why are we doing this to ourselves?
We enjoy misery.
Anyways, from one Leafs legend to another, yesterday it was announced. Now this was before the Hockey Canada stuff as well. Like one thing was coming at me after another. But goaltender Peter Mrazek signs a 2 times $4.25 million extension with the Chicago Blackhawks. Mrazek has a .907 save percentage with a 3.01 goals against average in 22 games that he's played this season, which is impressive considering he plays for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
And also, for those who are saying it's too much money, I think it's actually not a crazy amount considering the stat line he's putting up, and also the fact that it's the Chicago Blackhawks, who have no issue with cap space. Cap space actually is probably the furthest thing from their issues. Probably what they're more concerned about right now is just how many RFA, the free agency they all have going into next season. It's like the entire team, if you look at it, except for a couple. And also just how many injured players they have. I think that's more of their issue right now.
Yeah, they are suffering. And they'll be suffering for another 6 weeks because they let Connor Bedard back on the ice too early.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. He's like supposed to be out for even longer now. But if you like look at the cap friendly page for the Chicago Blackhawks, and like you look at just like how many picks. They have so many picks. They have so many prospects. I think the Chicago Blackhawks actually are going to be fairly dangerous again soon. But like you look at, their free agents that they have next year, and there's a lot of them. A lot of them. Quite a few RFAs who they'll have options on and things like that. But
I would
also as well
that to check and have a look, but I am afraid that if I open one more tab, my laptop will burst into flames.
Oh, don't worry. I'll do that for you. But also as well, like their picks that they have coming up in the next couple of years, like this draft that's coming up right now, they have 2 first-round picks. They have 3 second-round picks. They have 2 third-round picks. They also have 2 first-round picks in 2025 as well. One of them is the Leafs, which was in the Jake McCabe trade. But it's like you look at like, oh my God, there's so many. Like, oh my, I wish we were playing. Actually, no, now that I think about it just how bad. I'm like looking at the Blackhawks cap friendly page, and I was like, I wish, we could, have this much cap space. But then I think about how bad the Blackhawks are this season. But also as well, like, there's some guys on here that I'm like, these are not real. Like, Reese Johnson sounds like the most NPC hockey player you could ever think of.
He's not a real person.
Isaac Phillips, who are you?
They don't exist. They're not real. If they're not real, they can't hurt us in the future.
But yeah, so like, I'm like looking at this, I'm like, Jesus. But also, it's like they have so many players injured right now. So many players.
It's like every other game, someone like fucking dies. I use my F-bomb.
Well, so yeah, I think Peter Mrazek getting paid just over $4 million for the next 2 years, not gonna hurt them. In fact, probably if he decides to be the career-long Peter Mrazek and not the one season of Peter Mrazek that he was like with the Leafs, I think they're actually in pretty good shape for some reliable goaltending.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because if you look at his season-by-season stats, he had one bad year in his career, basically, and it was with the Leafs, because of course.
Oh my God. My laptop just made a scratching sound.
Well,
I'm so afraid.
So scary. Well, maybe we should speed through the rest of this episode pretty quickly then, so we can get through it. We also do have a trade to announce as well. I don't know how
yes.
exciting of a trade this is. But Leafs, and if you want to pull that up, Marcie, go through the trade.
It is. Where's it gone?
You sent it to me.
I did. Twitter. Right. The Penguins have acquired, I'm really sorry if I'm about to butcher his name, Maxim Kadjevic from the Wild in exchange for defenseman Will Butcher.
He's bald.
Yeah, we have. Kadjevic is signed through the 23-24 season, and his contract carries an AAV of $925,000 at the NHL level. Good for him. I have quite literally zero thoughts on this because I wasn't fully aware either of them existed until about an hour ago.
I wasn't either. And I'm like actually pulling up their elite prospects page. Both of them have games at the NHL level, but this is one of those trades where I'm just confused as to why we should care. No offense. But Will Butcher, I'm just looking at, I'm up into his elite prospects page. This season with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins in 14 games, he has 3 goals, 4 assists for a combined 7 points. He will report to the Iowa Wild, which is the Minnesota Wild's AHL affiliate. And then Maxim Kadjevic, this season with the Iowa Wild, he has 5 games, 1 goal, 2 assists for a combined 3 points. And then with the Iowa Heartlanders, which I believe are the ECHL affiliate of the Minnesota Wild, he has 20 games, 12 goals, 6 points, for a combined 18 points. So, yeah.
The Slay? Question mark.
Well, I get it's a trade that has happened.
Yeah, it is a trade.
We haven't had any other ones really. So some news to report. But then also as well, PWHL. Yay! So PWHL made an announcement today that February 16th, Toronto and Montreal will play a game at Scotiabank Arena. They're calling it the Battle of Bay Street, which makes sense because that's one of the streets that Scotiabank Arena is located on. Tickets go on sale February 1st, so make sure you snatch those. I have a feeling they're going to go very, very quickly if you would like to attend the game. And it also has the opportunity to set a world record for the highest attendance at a professional women's hockey league game, taking over from the game that was held at the XL Center, just solely based on the fact that Scotiabank Arena can seat more people. But yeah, very exciting. I actually technically could go to that game because it is the Saturday before. It's the Saturday of Family Day weekend, and so I'm going home that weekend back to Toronto. So I could go. It's a thing where it's like
for podcast research purposes, for science.
For science, for podcasts, to give some boots on the ground reporting. Go to the game. I'd love to actually. I have yet to make my way to a PWHL game yet. I've been busy. I actually wanted to go. I wanted to go to Tuesday's game. That was this week, Ottawa and Toronto in Ottawa, but I have a Tuesday night class, so I couldn't go. And then Justin Trudeau was at last night's game in Ottawa because yeah no, that one clip though of him clapping is so funny to me. Like
he looks like a 3-year-old who's like just learned how to clap.
Yeah, he's so quick too. It's so funny. Oh my god, it's been all over my timeline today. Like, it's just been that
everywhere.
thing laughing. But yeah, no, I think that's really exciting. You know, when there was the first announcement about the PWHL, there was discussion about them potentially playing in NHL arenas. So, are you reading something?
No, it just the screaming of the laptop is getting higher and higher pitched every few minutes. I have to go finish an exam after this. I need it to not die until after I've submitted it. Please.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I think that. Oh yes, we want to talk about the Kings though.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Kings now, quickly before we end off the show. Things are going down in LA. Kings last night lost to the Buffalo Sabres, and they're on a which I don't know if you've looked at the NHL standings recently, but
I'm
like,
allowed to laugh. I'm a Sabres fan.
but like the Sabres have like 40 are like really bad.
The Sabres are not having fun.
No, they're like really bad.
Yeah.
But the Kings are having a worse time. In their last 10, they are 2-5-3 on a 2-game losing streak. At one point, they were on like a crazy bad losing streak, though. They are 4th in the Pacific, which at one point they were 2nd. And they have 53 points, which still keeps them within the wild card, does it? Or at least keeps them in the hunt for the wild card. But the Kraken are only 4 points behind them, and like Coyotes are up there too, surprisingly. Hats off to the Coyotes. The Blues are making a comeback. Preds are still in the hunt. So like it's bad. And I also do want to say, like, there was these comments from Drew Doughty. It was never been one to mince his words. They were interesting comments that he made post game.
You're gonna fill me in on this because I have not been online much in the last 8 days.
Yeah, he said after their loss last night against the Sabres, he said, "We've got guys in this room who are too worried about themselves and worried about their points." Which, if you're like veteran defenseman is saying that about you, and you know it's about you, like, he didn't name any names, but like
he might as well.
No, he might as well. If you like, for the guys in that room, they know, right? If you know that he's talking about you, I'd be embarrassed.
Oh my god! I would turn up the next day with my fucking head hanging low.
But, and this is from Jared, like, apparently, like, it's like something like management is to stay the course. It's from Drew Drager. It's interesting. Like, I think for sure, like, definitely, you know, it's a mentality that can get really ugly within, you know, your locker room for sure. Like, if you keep, like, you know, it's very easy to get into this really almost toxic sort of mentality within the Kings locker room. And
yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, it's just, you know, something to keep an eye on in the next, you know, in the next little while, just in terms of like what management will do, if management will make a change, if it's something where it'll be, you know, you'll see certain players get moved, or what may it be?
Yeah.
Who knows? For sure, if, Drew Doughty is saying something, there's definitely an issue in the locker room. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of Kings hockey, unfortunately, because I, again, can't stay up late enough. Neither of us can stay up late enough for West Coast games. But also as well, it's a little bit tense, actually, for us this week, because I don't know if you've looked at the fantasy matchup.
Oh, I have.
Oh, I know you have, because you're currently winning right now, but that's because I literally had 3 players last night.
I would personally like to thank Nathan McKinnon.
No, because
5-point
it would be closer if Nathan McKinnon didn't decide to just casually score a hat trick on a Wednesday. Oh, it was a dick trick. Yeah, exactly. Casually score a dick trick on a Wednesday night. Who does that?
Casual 11.3 points to me.
Also,
which I was losing really badly because I have 3 teams. I was losing really badly in all 3 up until last night, and now I'm winning in 2 by a mile.
I know, and also as well, Andrei Svechnikov is out again with another injury. I swear, I can't keep doing this.
No. So it is. I might be winning, but at what cost? Because every time I go in to change my lineup, I have to see Joseph Woll's smiley little face staring at me from the IR spot. Do you know how soul crushing that is? Every single time I go down to the little goalie section, my favourite section, I have to see Joseph Woll just grinning up at me from the press box.
No, because also I'm looking at your lineup, and no offense, how is this why is this working? You guys need to listeners need to know that Marcie on a single fantasy roster has Alex Kerfoot, Noah Gregor, Justin Hall, Simon Benoit, which I know is an early pickup, Nikita Zadorov, pre-getting traded to Vancouver.
Mm.
Who is Braden McNabb?
Wait, is he on my team?
Yeah, he is.
Oh,
he has quite a few assists, but still.
I didn't actually know he was on my team. I don't know who he is. Well, I know who he is, but not. I know of him.
Why is this working? I'm actually upset. Because you know who's on my team? You know who's on my team that's currently losing to Marcie's team? I have Leon Draisaitl. I have Zach Hyman. I have Tim Stützle. I have Alex Ovechkin, which in theory should help. But no, he decided to finally stop scoring goals for the first time in his career. I have Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad because I couldn't separate them.
No.
Really, the only one where you're looking at my lineup and you're like, why is this guy here? Is Jimmy Vesey. And I picked him because I needed one guy who I was like, he's my little guy, and it's Jimmy Vesey. It's Mr. Clutch, Jimmy Vesey.
My little guy on my team, Ryan McLeod. My little guy.
You have so many little guys.
I have so it genuinely amazes me how I've managed to. I've done pretty bad. I've won 7, lost 8 so far. But considering my team, that is an achievement. With all the love in the world to Justin Hall, he has not done me any favors. He's got me 25.7 points this entire season so far. How? I don't know how I'm winning.
I actually don't either. This is deeply upsetting for me.
Even without Nathan McKinnon, I'd still be winning. And you know what? I think a lot of it is down to the fact that I have Lucanum, who has had 2 shutouts recently. So suck on that.
I can't be tied with you. I refuse that. Anyways, Connor Ingram, I hope you have a good game tonight.
Oh, who do I have as a good game?
Because you know how I dropped Samsonov?
Mm-hmm.
You know who I dropped Samsonov for and then picked up to replace him? Was Carter Hart. So then yesterday I dropped him again. And I was like, do I pick back up Samsonov? I almost did it. Should have done it. Should have freaking done it. But no, I was like, no. I'll pick up Connor Ingram because he's having a great season with Arizona, which he is.
Mm. Yeah, you can now definitely not pick up.
Did you just pick up Samsonov? Marcie? Why do I say anything?
That's twice I've done that mid-recording. I've picked up a goalie. Not even a player. This twice I've done it with goalies.
You did. Was the last one Joey Decord?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we're going to leave it for this episode because before Marcie keeps making more roster changes so that she can beat me in fantasy. I can't. I have to. This is getting competitive. We'll be back with a less competitive episode next week on Monday, as we will then discuss Leafs versus Jets 2, Electric Boogaloo. Marcie hates that I'm calling it this.
No, it's not even that I hate it. I love it, but it's the fact that for my GCSE history, I had to move on to a second workbook, and we called it the Cold War II Electric Boogaloo. And now every time I hear Electric Boogaloo, all I think of is GCSE history.
I thought you were going to say the Cold War.
And it's
yeah,
deeply traumatized.
But we'll be back. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of From the Fourth Line. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. That's right. We're basically everywhere, which is really cool. You can also find the show on Twitter. We love when you hang out with us there. We really don't tweet often as much from the show account. But if you want to find where me and Marcie are actually active, that is over on Twitter on our personal Twitters, which is Marcie's is at 60Leafs and myself is at PearB1. Those are always as also in the show notes. And yeah, with that, we will see you Monday.
It's midnight. I forgot to do my Duolingo.
Oh, well, Marcie's Duolingo streak is over.
No.
And with that, we will see you guys next time.
185 days.
Oh no. Bye.